The banana is thought to originate in Papua New Guinea and Southeast Asia, where its domestication dates back to 8000 BC. In some Asian cultures, the banana has occupied no less a position than that of a deity. In India, for example, the banana was called the fruit of the wise men. Legend has it that the banana was called the fruit of paradise because it flourished in the Garden of Eden, where its fruit was the source of knowledge of good and evil. In the Quran, the banana plant is referred to as the paradise tree. And in Buddhism, the banana is sacred to one of the forms of the goddess Kali and is worshipped on the third day of the month of Shravana. Even though bananas arrived in the Americas as early as the 16th century via Portuguese sailors who acquired the fruit from West Africa, it was only in the late 1940s and early 1950s that bananas took lasting root in St. Lucia as a major production and exporting enterprise. Previous attempts dating back to 1923 had been short-lived for one or more reasons, including inadequate finance, insufficient shipping capacity, Panama disease, and World War II shipping interruptions. What finally enabled bananas to take root in St. Lucia as a commercial enterprise was first the introduction of the Lacatan banana variety in 1948 as a replacement for the Panama disease-prone Romichel. Second, Britain granting preferential treatment to all imports of Commonwealth bananas entering the UK. Third, the entry of GIS, the British Marketing and Shipping Company, which had an extensive fruit and flower distribution and marketing network. Fourth, the establishment of growers associations in each of the Windward Islands. And fifth, the establishment of the Windward Islands Growers Association, WINDAN, in 1958. In this structure, the Banana Growers Association purchased from farmers all export quality bananas that they could grow. This in turn bought all the exportable bananas that the Banana Growers Association had for sale. And once a week, this loaded its ship with Windward Island bananas destined for England. And once a week, this loaded its ships with Windward Island bananas destined for England. Initially, the island shipped the banana to England without any crews, but starting in 1956, banana bunches were no longer shipped naked to the UK. Instead, to provide the banana protection against bruises, the bunch was clothed in an undergarment of paper lined with a soft, fluffy tissue paper like bedding called cancan, and a linen dress was then slipped over the cancan. By 1970, bananas were no longer shipped by bunches. Instead, the banana was dehanded and the hands packed and shipped in boxes. As a result, boxing plants were established, where bananas from the farm were dehanded, bathed in pools of water, treated to prevent sunburn, and packed into boxes for shipping. With British support for the banana industry in the form of preferential trade treatment, the Lacatan banana variety, which was resistant to Panama disease, the entry of GIS, a shipping and marketing company that could facilitate banana exports, and farmers organized into banana growers associations. St. Lucia took to banana with such zeal that banana exports increased from 27 tons in 1950 to 85 tons in 1965, valued at over $9 million, and forming more than 83% of all exports. In sharp contrast, sugar exports, which had totaled 10,000 tons in 1950, accounting for over 90% of exports, had by 1962 been reduced to zero, and never again was the country to export sugar. A new era had begun. After 2 centuries of sugar domination, bananas had finally replaced sugar as king. Bananas unleashed a revolution on three fronts. First, the economic revolution. Bananas led to a relative improvement in the economic and social status of farmers, and an improvement in the distribution of wealth, and it gave farmers a certain degree of economic independence. Second, the political revolution. Economic independence emboldened farmers' participation in the political process, and this state of affairs may have given wing to the likes of George Charles, John Compton, and George Odlum, who led the fight for labor's rights, political autonomy, and self-rule. Third, the cultural revolution, or the St. Lucia Renaissance. This sense of freedom and autonomy may have liberated the creative spirits of members of the 1950s Art Guild and led to an outpouring of creativity, the likes of which has not been seen before or after. And the prominence of artists of this era, including Destin St. Omer, Derek Walcott, Roderick Walcott, and Gav St. Omer, has remained unmatched. In the mid-1980s, instead of transporting banana bunches to boxing plants for processing, in what is called field packing, farmers handed the banana bunch in the field, drained the hand of latex. Then, to prevent crown rot, they initially applied a fungicide-impregnated pad, a Winburn patented invention, to the crown, and later, rather than applying crown pads, they simply bathed the hand in a basin of fungicide solution. So treated, the bananas were boxed and ready for export. Later, field packing became more centralized with the introduction of field packing stations. Field packing brought the era of boxing plants to an end. The effect of the growth of the banana industry on the island's economy couldn't have been more dramatic. In 1950, with a gross domestic product of $10 million, or a per capita GDP of $150, St. Lucia was the poorest of the Windward Islands. 20 years later, in 1962, the country's per capita GDP increased to $300, reflecting a more than doubling of GDP. Another 8 years later, in 1970, the economy tripled to 67 million, or a more than doubling of per capita GDP. Banana production and exports nosedived in the 1970s, but took off again in the 80s, such that by 1990, banana exports reached an all-time peak of 135,000 tons. Joined by growing tourism, construction, and service sectors, this period of record-breaking banana exports was accompanied by considerable economic expansion. GDP more than doubled from $500 million in 1980 to over $1 billion in 1992, corresponding to a 78% rise in per capita GDP from $4,200 to $7,500. In fact, with a real economic growth rate of over 7% during the 1983-1992 period, St. Lucia emerged not just as the wealthiest of the Windward Islands, but as a country with one of the most viable economies in the Caribbean. Then 1993 came along and things began to fall apart. The European Union became a single market, casting doubt over the continuation of the preferential treatment that St. Lucian bananas enjoyed on the UK market. Seizing upon the confusion, Latin American bananas flooded the market, causing prices to fall. The exchange rate value of the pound sterling chose no other time to take a dive. Falling prices in the UK, a depreciating sterling, and financial abuse by the SLBGA combined to produce a banana grower's price that was well below most farmers' cost of production. Farmers responded. Their production fell to 123,000 tons, 9% less than the previous year, and accusing the SLBGA of corruption, they demanded that the SLBGA board of directors be disbanded and that they, the farmers, should receive a guaranteed minimum price of 30 cents per pound of bananas. The country didn't heed the farmers' demands, so farmers went on a strike that culminated in the shooting death of 2 farmers by police. The banana strike and the shooting of the farmers marked the end of an era in the St. Lucia banana industry. In 1994, the government of the Windward Islands replaced Winburn with the Windward Islands Banana Development and Exporting Company, WIDDECO. And 2 years later, WIDDECO and Thieves plc each purchased a 50% stake in the buyout of this. In 1998, the SLBGA was dissolved by an Act of Parliament, and 2 private companies, the St. Lucia Banana Corporation, SLBC, and the Tropical Quality Fruit Company, TQFC, took its place. Thus, the banana industry was fully liberalized. In 2000, to maintain a share of the UK market in the face of rising Latin American competition. Farmers across the Windward Islands were organized into fair trade groups, and the Windward Islands started exporting bananas under the fair trade brand. Fair trade guarantees a minimum price, the fair trade minimum price, that covers the real cost of production. It established high environmental standards that reduce pesticide use and a social premium which farmers invest in their local communities. The fair trade premium has funded schools, health centers, roads, pipe-borne water, equipment for disadvantaged groups, and provided disaster relief. In line with its modernizing policies, in 2009, WIPDECO changed its corporate name to WindFresh, a neutral word that has opened new opportunities for commercialization and growth beyond the cultivation and sale of bananas. Presently, WindFresh manufactures juices, juice drinks, purified drinking water, sauces, marinades, dried herbs, processed and frozen foods, frozen fruit pulp, fruit sherbet, and smoothies. The St. Lucia National Trade Organization, NFTO, is now the only supplier of bananas for the UK market. The NFTO receives fair trade bananas from farmers for export to the UK through WindFresh. EQFC is still operational but purchases bananas from farmers for regional export. Bananas earmarked for fair trade but were rejected are sold locally or exported to the regional market. So essentially, the structure of the St. Lucia banana industry includes about 1,200 banana farmers, 2 banana purchasing entities, EQFC and the St. Lucia National Fair Trade Organization, 1 banana extra regional exporting company, WindFresh, and an advisory and support organization, the Windward Islands Farmers Association. About 90% of the banana farmers produce for the fair trade UK market. They sell most of their bananas to the NFTO, who in turn supplies WindFresh for the UK market. The rest of the bananas produced in St. Lucia are consumed locally or exported regionally.